Hello and welcome back. Today is day 9 of Unrelatable to Unstoppable Masterclass series. My name is Sarah Oblak-Spiker, and it's been my absolute joy, honor, and privilege to be able to support you, unrelatable women out there, and helping you transcend the weight of other people's expectations, unlock the magic of your power and the power of your magic, and do it in a way that helps you really transform your life, simplify your work, harmonize your home in a way that does not waste any more of your time and energy, and especially in ways that doesn't squeeze you into places where you no longer belong. So as simple as that. Day 9, we're gonna use our time together to kind of summarize what we were talking about and bring the theory and the framework into the practical application as you now integrate that framework and you move through each day that follows. Because it's really the simple thing, a lot of times we were asked to just say yes to yourself, just say no to things that no longer light you up, just go and be decisive. But you know what? Being decisive, that's the easy part. Sticking with it, that's where the rub job is. That's where things start falling sideways, especially when things don't line up to how we envision them. When we are interacting with other humans around us, when we are responding to everyday events. One thing is to go into a secluded place where it's you and your thoughts and your energy. But the day-to-day minutia, that's where the grind really takes place. And that's where so many temptations come our way to just go back to the old habits, go back to the old belief systems, go back to the old comfortable places, even though they are really uncomfortable, if we're really honest, right? So what I wanted to offer to you when we're talking about becoming unstoppable is this notion that, as I said earlier, it doesn't always mean the loudest or rambunctious or the most energized person that oftentimes is associated with the word unstoppable. It can be silent power, it can be persistence, it can be vibratory frequency. And that is the space that you're going to be moving into, the vibratory frequency. When you look around, will be falling sideways because, as we already established, there's going to be a breakdown before there's a breakthrough. Holding on to and tapping into that space and creating from that field of vibratory certainty is what's going to sustain you. So I want to be really transparent with you. I want to be really raw and real, because I know when I look back on my journey, when I look back on my life, when I was looking at the mirror and I did not recognize the glance staring back at me, when I was staring at the book Flights Now button for months and months because my husband did not agree with my need to change the environment and to take the girls out of school because logistically it was not feasible to keep them in the States when I was going to be recovering overseas. And I remember staring at that vision and that mission and that knowing of my heart that something needed to change, but my mind kept talking me out of it because, like, well, but who are you? Why do you think this is important? There's no measurable KPIs here. There's nothing for you to justify this need. Look what you're going to be doing, how inconvenient this is going to be for everybody. And those are conversations that happen behind the closed doors, sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning when we're lying awake, or underneath the shower when we hope that hot water can wash away our tears and our misery. But oftentimes it also feels like we don't have anybody to talk to, because you can take those issues to clients. There's peer pressure in certain peer groups. There's different priorities in certain environments where you are, as masterminds, for example, group programs. There's also this lingering disconnect between, how are you presenting yourself and this dimension when everybody perceives you at, and then knowing what multidimensionality of who you truly are, and it feels unsafe to open up, because perhaps this one thing that's holding you back, perhaps this one thing that's holding you from claiming that power is indeed the thing that everybody thinks you have it figured out. It can be quite tricky. There's also the dimension and the dynamic of simply not having capacity when you're just tapped out, maxed out, touched out, felt out, exhausted from making all the decisions, exhausted from running the show at home, in the office, and everything in between, that you simply don't have it in you. And you're like, well, if I can just minimize my own needs, if I can just mute that ringing in my heart and in my soul, then maybe it will go away, and we'll just put my head down, right, and keep on going, because who am I to complain about those things? Chances are also that you know exactly what you're looking for. You know exactly what's available on the other side of that yes, on the other side of being unstoppable. And it is freaking scary, because you know the moment you say yes, and the moment you walk through those doors towards new possibility, certain relationships will come to an end. Certain standards that you're settling for right now are no longer going to be enough. Chances are that might include your business partnerships, your business hires, for example, or certain clients that are paying the bills right now and you're tolerating. It could include your spouse. And you know very well that it's dangerous to say yes to yourself, because you know what that's going to be bringing along. And it's just overwhelming to try to figure out, well, then what? Well, if I set new standards, then what? If I complete those relationships, then what? If I walk out, then what? Can I sustain myself? Am I worthy of the new beginning? Can I handle all the drama and heartbreak and misery and God knows what else, right? I get it. Again, it is something that I had personally walked through myself, and it is something that I had personally walked through hand in hand with my clients. And I'm not here to tell you what to do. I think you are a very capable woman. I think you are insanely brave already. You just have to remember who that person is, and you have to dig a little bit deeper to find her again. And this is what hopefully this framework of this masterclass is going to offer: ability, tools, inspiration, empowerment to go after that version of you. And when we're talking about transforming yourself and transforming your life and harmonizing your home, you know, all those things sound very airy-fairy, but how does that feel and what does that look like on a daily basis? We don't know. That's another scary part. It's totally unknown. But what I can tell you is that it feels light. And with the change of attitude and with the change of vibratory frequency from which you're now going to be operating at every next level, the possibilities that once used to be as distant and unattainable as ever, not only are going to become available, they're going to be falling in place for you, ready for you. Places that were off the market, way beyond your budget and completely out of the path that you had lined up for yourself, are now going to become available for you to simply pack your bags and move. And moving process, things that you were told were impossible for whatever reasons, now become available. People come up out of the woodwork to support you. Answers change. It is hard to articulate sometimes, especially when you are in this space looking back, because the human, you know, we have this incredible gift to kind of forget the journey. You know, we remember where we began, and the public, those around you, you know, they will remember where it is the beginning, but then the journey, the hard part, the lonely part, the scary part, the things that you would believe would take months, but then they turn into years, and you're still holding onto that hope and onto that vision, and you're not letting go, but you're not quite there yet, that's quickly forgotten. And when I was designing this masterclass series, it was one of the promises I wanted to held up and fulfill, was this raw and open approach. Because when I look back on my own journey, that is what I was missing. That disconnect between the PR approved, polished, rags to riches stories that missed the nitty gritty crying in the shower at 2 o'clock in the morning, throwing a tray of burnt food to the floor because the kids complained that it's burnt and it was a drop over the edge, you can't keep it together anymore, and you collapse to the floor, and then you cry together now because you feel guilty for reacting in a way that you think you shouldn't react, because, you know, as a mom, you're supposed to hold it together, and you keep forgetting that you're just a human being too. Those are the moments, those are the steps of the daily integration. And as you're moving along, as you're consistently putting in the work, when you heighten the awareness in every single moment, when you can check in and you're like, okay, where am I? Where do I want to be? Or where do I want to be and where am I in relation to that destination? Because depending on where you're starting, the two will interchange. And then you can check within yourself, okay, when I accomplish, when I achieve, when I get to experience, when I get to create, when I get there, whatever there is, right? This is how I'm going to be feeling. This is how it's going to look like. This is how it's going to smell like. This is who I'm going to be. This is how I'm going to interact with the world. This is how I'm going to be responding. And then you can check in where you are now, and what are you feeling now, and how are you responding now? What are the old tapes that are running through your mind now? And then you can go and make the move. Does it mean you have to simply redirect? Does it mean you have to dig a little bit deeper to get to the core of what is coming up and why? Does it mean you get to dissolve it and alchemize it? The more that you do this work, the faster it's going to be. And also the more certain you're going to be in knowing what is required. Or it could just be, you know what, it's time for me to just step away and let it be and go do something else, or just not do anything and just giving yourself the space. And when you're busy, I guess giving yourself space is the last thing on your mind. And when you're working so hard towards achieving this one goal, giving yourself the space it seems impossible. It feels like you're going to be missing out on opportunity, right? And again, that's that mastery. That's the part of integration, moving through and moving at the standstill. Sometimes in the 3D world, it feels like you're stuck at the standstill. But when you have this heightened awareness, when you know where you're moving, and when you work from vibratory frequency and certainty, you know that things are falling into place in the ethers and in the layers that are unseen, but you know things are being worked on and rearranged for you. Another awareness that I want to bring your attention to is, as you're going through the process on a daily basis, you know, if you're a visual person, I usually see it as an escalator. It's approaching, I recognize the triggers, I can see the escalator. I was like, oh my gosh, if I get triggered, if I allow this to get to me, I'm going to get on the escalator and off we go, right? But when you have this heightened awareness, you can do this work. And in addition, you will also know what are going to be the ways that you tend to sabotage yourself. Saying that you're too busy, that you don't have the time, that there's too much going on, that maybe tomorrow I'll feel better, today is just a bad day, but tomorrow's going to be better, so I'll think about it until tomorrow. All those are saboteurs. Believing you're not worthy, That's a way of sabotaging yourself. Waiting until you reach a certain goal and then you will deserve to. That's a way of self-sabotaging. Setting a goal so high that you know you're not going to be reaching it just so that you can be upset with yourself and continue that cycle. That's a way of sabotaging yourself. Playing in a big dream when you know it feels safe, but refusing to take the first step, or trying to be too controlling or too perfectionist about that first step. That's a way of sabotaging yourself as well. Feeling resistance coming up as you go, and you're like, oh, well, it must mean that I'm on the wrong path, so let me back off. Hate to break it to you. Chances are you're sabotaging yourself, because chances are resistance is not even about taking the first step. But would you consider checking in? What is it about the other side, across the bridge that you're about to cross? What meaning does that thing on the other side have, and what resistance is arising from that? What are your perceptions about that thing? Preconceived notions, ideas, beliefs. Maybe that's where resistance is coming from. It doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It just might mean that it's finally the thing that you've been asking for, but you were told, programmed to not want it, or it's not noble enough to want it, or that you're too materialistic to want it, or that you're too much or not enough, and anything in between. And look, I don't want to make this into a whole loom and gloom thing, because there's enough drama already going on as is. I don't need to press on those wounds even harder. And yet, even when you have an actual wound and it gets infected and you don't take care of it and you just try to treat it with a bandage, when it actually needs a really deep cleaning, yeah, that's going to stink too. And you need to clean it, and you need to poke it, and you need to poke some more and dig some deeper to really clear out all the pus, and then apply the medicine. And sometimes it can be topical, sometimes you have to ingest it, right? This is the same work. So if this feels like poking and provoking and really pressing those wounds a little too hard, I honor you for acknowledging that, and I welcome you to, again, re-examine, why is this resonating with you on that level? And where is that gold hiding in that mess? Chances are it's right there. And another thing that is clear when you're doing this work is that, as much as we want to, and that's another thing that I already talked about in this masterclass series, as much as we want to think that it's something we can do on our own, you will save a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of agony, a lot of resources, a lot of trial and errors when you open to receiving support and guidance. Not from the standpoint of expecting somebody to have this magic roadmap and all the easy buttons and all the answers that actually only you have within you, but support and guidance and feedback and accountability, so that you stay the course, so that you can be supported as you move through the discomfort, through the unknown, when things look like they're not moving, and when you just want to give up and you want to curl back into this old place and old space and old habits because they feel more comfortable. Having that somebody to talk to ask a different question, to ask a question differently, to offer a different perspective, to remind you of how remarkable you already are, to help you remember what is that magic inside of you that it's so convenient to forget or try to box it away because this is what you've been told to do, right? Not from the standpoint of seeing a potential in you and then trying to mold you into their version of that potential, but completely detached, completely invested and yet uninvested on how the journey looks like, because they're there unconditionally for you and they have your best interest in mind. And also another thing that's coming up when it comes to that kind of support, important thing is also having the discernment of when it's time to pivot and when it's time to grab your hand and pull you or push you across the finish line. You know, there's going to be times the transformational process is, first and foremost, it's not something you get into starting blocks, 3, 2, 1, go, and then you cross the finish line. It's an ongoing process, and there's going to be turns, and there's going to be U-turns, and there's going to be forks in the road, and there's going to be dead ends, and you'll have to go back and figure things out again. But again, having that support, sometimes it feels like having somebody carry the light so that you can see the path in front of you and really focus on every step that you're taking. I know, very poetic. So now let's talk about what's on the other side. Like, is this even worth it? And why go through all these agony? Only you know if it's worth it. You know, the typical psychology of cells would be to keep poking and provoking your pain points, and then helping you paint this beautiful, magical picture that's 10 times better than the best imagination that you can come up with, and then scare you into handing over the credit card information. I would know, I've done plenty of those purchases, and I've done plenty of sales like this, and it all felt icky. So what I really want to offer to you is a possibility to expect the unexpected on all levels, a safe space to just lean back and close your eyes and imagine, what does the best scenario look like? And also a safe space to imagine the most minimal shift, even if it's a 1% different from where you are today. What does that get to look like? And where is value in that? Because sometimes, you know, we are going after some massive transformation, mountain moving work, where in reality, all that our soul is asking for is a little bit of a shift. You know, 1% today can become 180% down the line. And it doesn't always have to be taking leaps and bounds. Sometimes it's one step at a time, one step at a time. And sometimes it's just standing still. Because let's be honest, when you think about where you want to be tomorrow, where you want to be next month, next year, 5 years, 10 years from now, there's no guarantee that that's exactly where we're going to go anyway, and that that's what's in the cards. But just playing in the possibility, when anything is possible, and when things become available to you that right now you can't even dream about. Relationships with your partner, with your kids, deepening, strengthening, or if they come to a completion, that it's not a complete and utter breakdown and a gruesome battlefield, but a separation with dignity and respect, especially for yourself. And it doesn't always have to be a massive heartbreak. Completion of identities, completion of relationships, renegotiating those relationships, evolution of those relationships. It can change a whole trajectory. Relationships with the kids, you know, parenting doesn't come easy to everybody at all times. It happens to be one of the easiest things that come to me. And even then, there are moments when I doubt in myself. And then there are moments when my kids come up and say something or do something that blows me away. And I am reminded in every single moment that those kids of mine are sovereign beings, complete beings on their own path. And it's not on me to shield them or direct them or protect them or hover over them in the most literal sense of the word. But as sovereign beings that they already are, how can I guide them? How can I help them become who they already are meant to become? And how can I disengage my trigger points when the old programming and things that I was told to be afraid of or explode at don't faze me anymore, and they are not transferred and projected onto them? It makes a whole lot of difference. And it doesn't seem like much, but on a day-to-day, it makes a huge difference when you are running a business, running a household, chauffeuring kids to school and from school and to another practice and to another party and everything in between, packing lunches, making dinners, cleaning the house, whatever is it that you do besides just being you. And then the end of the day rolls in, right? And another interesting thing when it comes to unrelatable to unstoppable journey, being a high performer, there's a lot of misconceptions being a high performer and being a woman. And let's just talk about this for a second. I know it's a little bit out there, but bear with me. The typical conventional wisdom would have you believe that as a woman, you're supposed to be tired, you're supposed to have headaches at the end of the day, you're supposed to be touched out and felt out by the time you and your partner lay down in bed and he starts climbing on top of you, right? What if that's not true? What if that's that one thing that's super unrelatable and you don't identify with it because you happen to have unmatched drive and desire? And you happen to be the one who enjoys intimacy and sex and all the spiciness that intimate partnership can bring. What if you're the one who's consistently turned down because they have headaches and they're tired and they're stressed out and not in the mood and not aroused and you name it? And you feel the frustration and you feel turned down and you feel rejected, and those old wounds are creeping up, and the old stories of, see, I knew I was too much, or see, I knew I'm not enough. And then you start going down the path of eating your emotions away, trying to bury yourself in work so that you can distract yourself, overcompensating in ways how you now try to shower the person with love and attention to, yeah, I don't think we need to continue, but I think you get the idea. But maybe that's the one thing you don't have anybody to talk to. Maybe that's the one thing that makes you unrelatable. So how can you renegotiate with yourself? How can you recalibrate the energies? How can you reconcile with your partner and go back to the drawing board and say, hey, not from the needy energy or the energy of victimhood or anger and resentment, but unconditional love, and saying, okay, this is what I need, this is what I require, this is what I desire. How can we renegotiate that? What do you need? What do you require? What do you desire? That is the unstoppable part right there. Again, as I said earlier, it doesn't have to be rah, rah, rambunctious out there, airy fairy pom-poms, red carpet and fanfare thing. It can be having the capacity to have these conversations. And how would that change the dynamic at home? If you had that, and if you had the strength to hold your partner's aura as they are now maneuvering that space, as now they are growing and they're being poked and provoked, and they're re-examining and growing and maneuvering and moving forward, or deciding to, you know what, I'm stepping backwards. But now you have the strength and you have the capacity and you have the courage and you have the clarity to not fall apart, but to know what is that you're guided towards, what is that's emerging through you, what's your soul's mission, so you can sustain whatever comes around. And you can stand while the tornadoes are raging around you, and when things are falling apart, and when things are super awesome and they can be even more awesome. That's that unstoppable part. That's what we're talking about here. That's what we're facilitating here. And that's what's available to you. The framework, you got it. If you want more, if you want support, not just my personal support that looks like monthly one-on-one conversations with me, in addition to bi-weekly group coaching calls and Q&A calls and private community for support and for feedback and accountability, it also offers you a 3-day in-person retreat. Imagine being in a physical space with all these unstoppable women. Yeah, I'm getting chills just describing this, just feeling into that. And that's it, that's what's available. That's what's being offered. The thing is, it's not cheap by any stretch of imagination. I'm just going to tell you that. If you do want to check it out, it's all outlined on the website. There is application process because I do want to make sure we are a fit. You have 2 options. If 1 year is too much to commit to and you just want to get started with 4 months, we can do that. That's a possibility for you because, again, you are in charge. You get to choose your path forward and you get to choose what that next step gets to look like. So on my website, www.makeyourlifeyourlegacy.com/mastermind, that's where you're going to find the information you're looking for. And should you have any other questions, hey, reach out. Let's have a conversation. Send me a message on LinkedIn, on Facebook, via email. We are so connected. And that's another thing. The irony of life these days is that despite the connectivity, we all just feel so alone and isolated because we keep forgetting we're not alone. But the spaces where these conversations take place are lacking. A lot of conversations, in my opinion, and I'm talking as a witchy being here, a lot of conversations I perceive to be very shallow, and shallow is just not my style, or arbitrary solutions that are like, well, I don't need another life hack. I want a real deep change, because life hacks to me personally are just a bandage. But if the wound is still there and getting infected over and over and over again, now we really have a problem that the bandage is not going to be able to solve. Or when you have a wound that's infected, but you put a cast around it, now you have a bigger issue. And that's a lot of times how we go through life, in a cast or with walls around us, because we don't want to get hurt, or because this is our safe space behind those walls, without realizing just how limiting everything is and how we're limiting ourselves. So unrelatable is knowing what your magic is and owning it, and being okay with the fact that you don't relate to most people, that most people can't relate to you. Something that elite performers understand very well, something that elite athletes understand very well, something that driven, passionate, devoted C-suite leaders, business leaders, you get up at 4 a.m. to start doing your work. Like, you understand what it means to be unrelatable. The difference is, are you hiding it or are you owning it? Are you apologetic about it? Or does it fuel you in all the healthy ways? And then unstoppable, I think we already established what that means and what it means to you. That's a whole different thing. I can't answer that question for you. Only you know the answer, just as much as you, and only you know the answer of where you want to be at the end of today, at the end of tomorrow, next week, as you ring in New Year. As final thought, I want to leave you with something else. At the time of this recording, it's December 9th. And when this comes live, it's going to be, I believe, December 10th or 11th. It doesn't matter. Chances are you're going to be watching this way later, because this will be repurposed and this will be made available through different channels in different capacities. But one thing will remain: the notion that transformation does not happen because a number on a calendar changes, or because a number on a bank account changes, or because a number on a scale changes. No, the transformation is activated the moment you say yes to what you already know is your truth. But it's in the moments that follow, in the daily application and integration, that's where change really start taking place. And that's where people start falling sideways and retract and change their minds and postpone and fall off the track, especially the ones who try to go at it alone. And again, I think you are smart, you already know that, but I just wanted to leave that and made it be a final thought for today. So this brings our conversation of day 9 to a completion. This brings the series to completion, because the final day is going to be Q&A, live Q&A, so that I'm done talking at you, but I can actually talk with you. In the meantime, as we already established, you have the framework. You have the, if you want to write them all down, actionable items for every single one of those days. If you want to get yourself a brand new journal and write them all down and start doing the work, everything is there already. I hope it supports you. I hope it serves you. I hope it helps you create the life that you can't even dream about, where you jump out of the bed in the morning, inspired, empowered, ready to go, super excited. And if you know somebody that could really find value and benefit from the examples, inspiration, teachings, application of this series, please send them this way or send the series their way. Super simple. It's either on our blog at makeyourlifeyourlegacy.com/blog. It's going to be on my YouTube channel. It's going to be somewhere on Facebook timeline. It's going to be on somewhere on LinkedIn timeline. It's out there. Super simple, super easy. I thank you from the bottom of my heart already. And I want to honor you for choosing to spend time and energy and attention with me while you could be doing a ton of other things. And I honor you already for saying yes to yourself in whatever capacity that gets to look like. And in order to create capacity, I challenge you to take 1 or 2 things off of your plate that no longer serve you, that are draining you and are absolutely depleting and a distraction. You'll see what happens. Take care, and I'll talk to you tomorrow during the Q&A. Bye.